For my alternative assessment, I made a busy book. At first I thought of doing potentially a flip book, but I really have no artistic ability and I didn't know exactly how it would relate to class, so I nixed that idea pretty quickly. I also thought of potentially making a quilt. I've been making quilts since I was young, so I thought it was more up my alley. But these two quilts that I've on the slide are the first place prize and the best of show, so I knew that what I exactly wanted would be really hard to do with the time restriction. Then I decided on a busy book. It would work with my abilities to quilt and it would have a direct relation to our textbook. It would be interactive. It might be a little bit time consuming, but I knew that if I had strategically planned out how to do it, for example, separating all of these things, so instead of doing Velcro and a snap on both pages, on one page, to actually separate it, and I knew that that would be more doable. I also knew that busy books would have a direct relation to David Russell's literature for children, especially with Chapter 5. Chapter 5 talks about how books have a tactile quality to them, and for cloth books, it would be good for younger children to get used to how to flipping pages and stuff. It would also have different surfaces and sensory development and movable parts for them to use. I started researching busy books. I looked online just with a couple of searches and found some ideas to use, but a lot of them were also original. I decided to make a list of things that I wanted to buy potentially, such as Velcro and buttons, and I made a list, went to Savers, and while I was there I came up with the idea of putting one different color on each page. It made it a little bit more doable. Then I decided to sketch out exactly how I wanted to make each page. The page that changed the most was the gray page because I initially wanted to have kids to be able to lace up a shoe, but I accidentally bought a leather shoe rather than a canvas shoe, which is really hard to sew with, so I decided to change it in the end. These are some of the pages in their middle stages. This page was the blue page, and this fabric is a knit, which means that it's really hard to sew and it stretches and moves, so I had to undo it and straighten it out with some safety pins. These are each of the 11 pages all laid out by color. And then I had to basically just assemble the book itself. I used this sewing machine called a serger and sewed around 3 of the edges to then flip it out, inside out. And then I also made the cover just using some white fabric and some crayons. When you use the crayons, you can take a hot iron to it and it melts the wax into the fibers of the fabric. This is me flipping inside out the pages. I had to do this for all pages in the book, and it had a fluffy layer of batting inside. When doing this, it's called birthing the pages, and you have to poke out each of the corners using either your finger or a chopstick or something to that effect to make sure that they are pointy and not rounded. Then I had to do a really difficult task of actually binding the book. Assembling the edge was a little bit hard because there's so many different ways to do it, but because of the hole that was created from sewing the 3 sides and flipping it, I had to do something to close that, and I did that with doing the binding of the book. It became difficult because you're sewing through a lot of layers, and you have to make sure it's super tight so that way the pages aren't really far apart. You had to sew it really straight and make sure everything was really secure. I did run into one issue because, as you can see here, I didn't sew it very straight. The lines of the fabric sort of helped, but not really. So you can see how it came out to be really crooked, and there was a lot of space in between the next page. So I had to undo it and then sew it the right way. I also sometimes got a large clump of threads that was just really hard to deal with. These are some final beauty shots of the book. This was my red page of a drawstring. I used Velcro and yarn for hair tying, snaps, a pocket, and a belt. The purple page was weaving, which was really fun. Like I said, I found the largest buttons for the pink page. I used an elastic with a button, a belt, looping different beads through ribbons, a buckle, a zipper, shoe tying, and a snap. Thank you very much.